cultural bridges between our lands.
This is Kaloy Tabundo Jr. from the ASEAN Studies Center of the New Era University, and here with us today to discuss a paper or research which he has prepared entitled Trade Integration and Socio-Economic Disparities Among ASEAN Nations, ASEAN States. We have here Dr. Sir Percival Peña Reyes, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics of Ateneo de Manila University. Welcome to the program, Dr. Sir.
Yes.
Sir is your first name.
Yes, I was named after a Knight of the Round Table.
Ganun ba yan?
Yung spelling yung iniba. But yeah.
Okay, so you did a research entitled Trade Integration and Socio-Economic Disparities Among ASEAN States.
Yes, that's
what is
correct.
research? What is this research all about?
Well, I originally did it for a talk that I gave for the first Model ASEAN meeting in Ateneo. And that was the topic that was assigned to me, actually. And I did research on it. So I had to crunch data to see where those disparities would lie exactly. So,
You mean disparity among the ASEAN member states?
in their economic performance. And
This is within the context of the ASEAN Economic Community, which is supposed to be one of the three pillars of ASEAN. The other
Yes.
two pillars are the political, security, and the socio-cultural. So you did a research related to the ASEAN Economic Community. I think you looked at the development of the roadmap for ASEAN integration.
Yes.
Ano ba ito? What is this about?
That's correct. So the ASEAN Economic Community, as I noted during my talk, I highlighted that it was it officially culminated in end December of 2015.
Okay, that's the ASEAN
That's
integration.
ASEAN
Okay.
integration. And well, my presentation exactly was meant to take stock of where we are now in
Okay.
so far as
Yung-
achieving
Okay,
that
the
vision.
objectives of the ASEAN Economic Community. Ano nga ulit yung objectives ng ASEAN Economic Community? I
To
think
have,
we have four objectives.
four objectives, yes.
One of them is
Single market,
single market and production
base.
base. Ano big sabihin ng single market and production base?
Well, if I were to put it in simple terms, no, to treat this
Region.
huge block, this huge region as one market.
Okay.
So there will be free flow of resources, goods, services, investments. No? So it's going to be unimpeded. And we would like to put down trade barriers so that we
Talagang
could,
may free flow.
yes,
Capital,
of capital,
goods, even labor.
even
diba?
labor, yes. No? So that all the countries could take advantage of this. And this is a tide that would presumably lift all boats.
Okay. Tapos one of the other objectives of the building the ASEAN Economic Community is yung ito nga, the subject of your paper, equitable economic development. So ang subject ng paper mo, nakuha ba natin talaga yung equitable economic development? As in summary, anong findings sa research na nakita mo?
Fine. Well, I will not mince words. No? There is still a lot of work to be done.
Okay.
And I think the main point that I wanted to drive at was we need to walk our talk.
Okay.
We need to walk our talk because we have been saying that we say one thing, that we want to integrate, we want to compete, but internally, are we even doing it?
Yeah, we want to bridge the economic
Bridge
divide.
the economic divide.
Okay.
Okay, but internally, we also have our own issues, no?
Among the 10.
Our export sector, Dr. Tabunda, has even declined in importance, no? So how
The
can
export
we,
sector of
the Philippines,
the Philippines,
no?
yes.
So how do we reconcile that with the fact that we want to open up with
Yes, with the rest of ASEAN.
with the rest
man
of
lang,
ASEAN, no? So it should be pushing us to do the right things, but are we doing them?
Okay.
So we need to really
do something.
our talk.
Okay. To help us, we have actually some of the slides that yung nag-crunch ka ng numbers.
Yes.
Can we look at the first slide, yung comparison of the gross domestic products of the different ASEAN member states? Can we have that? It says here actually, so we have the 10 ASEAN member states. Ayan, napakalayo. Tignan mo nga.
Yes.
Bakit nga pala may Korea yan?
Well, I wanted to point out, no, because I was invited recently to a talk which incorporates also the new southern policy of Korea.
Of Korea, okay.
And
So,
I wanted to show also that ano bang size natin with respect
Okay.
to Korea, which of our ASEAN countries could actually stand
Yes,
toe-to-toe with Korea as far as economic activity goes.
So we have here the 2018 gross domestic product figures.
That's the latest
ang,
observation.
Ang laki nung disparity. So of course on top is Indonesia, di ba?
Yes. Indonesia is the largest economy. No?
And then
GDP
Thailand.
wise.
Where's Philippines there?
Philippines are somewhere there in the middle.
Number 6. We're number 6 out of
Malaysia,
10.
Singapore. Then, of course, yung Vietnam, Myanmar, Cambodia, the BCLMV countries would be there.
Yeah, but of course we see that Vietnam is slowly catching up.
Yes.
Diba? And Philippines and
Inching up.
Singapore halos pareho yung size ng economy.
Although we will not show it yet, no, but yung land area, of course, no, is something.
Okay, so and then the next
smaller
slide we look at
country.
the GDP per capita. This is the gross domestic product. Ito rin yung GDP per capita. So,
Yes, the standard of living.
dito mo makikita lalo yung disparity.
Yes.
So, where's the Philippines? Where's
Philippines
number
is
6?
somewhere down there.
Yeah.
Singapore has actually is higher standard of living.
And to think that
compared with
when
Korea.
ASEAN was established in 1967, tayo ang pinakamalaki ang GDP tsaka GDP per capita.
I wasn't born yet, but I would imagine, no, that we would probably be up there, no?
So,
But,
this is already how many years after ASEAN? So, ito pa rin. One of the
2018.
objectives of the ASEAN Economic Committee is to really
Yes.
bridge the economic divide.
Yes, that's precisely
pero
what
eto
I
pa
find
rin ang
absurd.
nangyayari.
No? We are here talking about this loudly, but we're not walking our talk. And
This is
these
the
are
actual figure talaga.
Disparity still.
Yeah,
are
and if you
pretty
look
much
at the next
evident.
slide, pakita natin yung next slide pa niya, yung share in land area versus share in real GDP. Ano bang significance nung when you show the share in land area versus share in real GDP? What's the significance of
This is just an indication, no, of what countries are endowed with.
Okay.
Because the smaller countries seem to have a disproportionate share of income,
Yeah.
economic activity.
Pinakamaliit ang land area is Singapore and Brunei, pero
They seem to be
run away yung
doing,
kanilang yung kanilang GDP.
Yes,
so
yes.
dito mo makikita hindi talaga
There's
it's not really the
unevenness.
size of the natural resources available that would really determine the economic growth of
What you do with it probably is the more
And then next slide,
important thing.
pakita natin share in population size versus share in real GDP. Anong susunod dyan? Population size. What's the significance? Why do we need to look at the share of population size versus share in real GDP?
Well, population is of course a huge source of labor, but is the labor productive?
Ayun. The biggest in terms of population is Indonesia, pero in terms of real GDP, siya pa rin talaga ang
Yes,
pinakamalaki.
yes. Uh-huh.
Okay. Ang Philippines were second in terms of population, but mas malaki ang real GDP ng Thailand. Diba?
Yes.
And of course,
Precisely.
Singapore.
And I think what's been dragging us from achieving more is, of course, our lagging agricultural sector.
Okay.
Industry is inching up,
Yes,
but
yes.
we really need to push our agricultural sector because
And to think
poverty
that,
is still a
and
largely
to think
rural
that
phenomenon here.
ilang percent ba ng ating population ang nasa rural areas pa rin? About
Well,
50?
yung 1 out of 3 working Filipinos are in agriculture.
Sa labor sector. Pero in
Yes,
terms of population, mas malaki.
Population, I think baka may
May 50% siguro. Okay.
I'm not really sure about it, no, but I read recently an article penned by Dr. Rolando D. of UALP.
Yeah.
No? He mentioned something about agriculture that we really need to.
Yeah.
It's still largely an agricultural phenomenon. yung
We're still largely an
poverty.
agricultural country, but unfortunately, we are a net food importer.
Net food
So
importer,
we
and
can't-
farmers themselves are net consumers
yes.
of what they produce.
We can't
the
even
rice.
produce 100% of the food that we need. Diba? Dito yung pagkakaiba ng food self-sufficiency and food security.
It's not necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
Because in fact, no, in Singapore and Korea, they are also net food importing countries, but we have to address it holistically in all its dimensions. What is food security?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
I think they have done a good job, no, which is of course related to how they manage the resources. So I think policy making, no, we have to do the right policies to achieve that.
Can we look at the next slide? Ito na po yung napakita ng Human Development Index. What's HDI in the first place?
Well, HDI is an index
Ayan.
that combines indicators, no, for income, education, and health. So it's not just income, no, because income masyado hong narrow yan,
Yes,
no?
yes.
Na hindi lang naman yun yung sumasaklaw dun sa
pagiging pagkatao.
pagiging maunlad.
Yes, yes.
No, yung
Health kasama
yung
dyan.
health and education also kasama rin po dyan.
So on top, very high, actually it's 9th in the world as of 2017 is Singapore.
Singapore,
Diba?
yes. No?
Tapos Brunei Darussalam it's 39, rank 39. Malaysia, rank,
Kukunti lang po yung yung very high yung classmate po ng South Korea.
okay, Malaysia and Malaysia very high. Ang Thailand ay high and then Philippines medium na tayo.
Medium, yes.
So
we have well, apparently, no, not half of ASEAN, no, nasa medium category pa rin, no? So again, if we are really serious in lifting all
Yes.
boats, no, with this tide we call, no, ASEAN integration, then yan, it should translate to that also.
So actually karango natin yung Philippines, Indonesia, Vietnam, the CLMB countries.
CLMB,
okay.
yes.
Pero kasama natin doon ang Indonesia,
Yes.
which is rank 116, tayo ay 113. Indonesia and Vietnam incidentally are both number 116. Pero yung Singapore is up there, number 9 sa
Number 9, yes.
sa global figure.
In fact, no, yung Singapore lang ho yung kayang tumalo sa South Korea.
Yeah, actually mas mataas yung South Korea is 22.
Yes,
Number
yes.
22. Okay, yung Global Competitive Index, why do we need to look at the Global Competitiveness Index? Ano ba ibig sabihin to? What's the implication of this in economic development?
The main variable
The next
in,
slide please. Okay. Sige.
The main variable po, no, that we take a look at in competitiveness is productivity.
Okay.
So all of these factors, no, infrastructure,
Yes,
it's
yes.
composed of different pillars, no, but how all of these factors affect your productivity as a country. And yun, no, yung ano ho natin, infrastructure has been a
It's
large
part of this.
constraint.
Oo.
That's why we have been embarking on build precisely to address that. But of course, this is something that will kick in the very long term.
Hindi pa actually
po
nagsisimula pa lang yung
nagsisipa.
ibang project. Launch pa lang yung
Yes.
maraming project. So we have lot of catch up to do.
Yes. In fact, no, yung infrastructure gap po na yan, it's so large
Yes.
that what we have right now versus what we need internally and what we have right now between what our neighbors have put in place
Yeah.
for themselves. Ang laki ho ng gap na yan.
So naiwanan tayo.
Napag-iwanan po.
Imagine during the even during the early 70s mas maganda pa raw yung mga infrastructure natin di ba? Pero 70s, 80s, 90s naiwanan na tayo.
Opo, no. And that's also one thing that I found out, no, when I wrote my dissertation in Philippines Korea, to say comparative study, no, that Korea, we actually started out quite similar with them in the 1960s.
Yes.
In fact, angat tayo ng konti
Angat
sa
tayo,
kanila. But they actually embarked on deliberate efforts to channel investments towards the formation of capital goods, no, and factories and all of these things. So they really channeled resources deliberately. In fact, no, there was also a phase in their history where, like us, no, exported labor.
Yes.
May mga nurses and miners that were exported. No? So we could do it. No? If they could do it, why can't we? No? Yun yung ano ko lang din. Ho.
Okay, tignan lang ulit natin yung Global Competitive Index. Singapore is number 2 in the world.
Yes.
Malaysia 25, Thailand 38, Indonesia 45, Brunei Darussalam 62. We are number 56 or 66. 66 siguro.
I think.
Yeah,
we're somewhere. Ano,
So naunahan tayo nung 7 bansa.
we're down there. We are
56,
56,
okay,
so
56.
we're down there.
So ano bang nangyari kasi? Of course, alam natin, pero how do you look at it? Bakit nangyari sa atin? Bakit naiwanan tayo in terms of Global Competitiveness Index when before we're up there?
Well, I think, no, yung largest thing that probably has pulled us down, no? Yung really yung policy making, policy direction. We've been making bad decisions.
We've been making the bad decisions.
Policy decisions. So yung
across different administrations.
I think so, no? Yung even in our constitution, 'di ba? It's enshrined, no, yung economic provisions, no?
Yes,
So
yes.
yung ating obsession with rice, no? So yung mga bagay na ganito, no, we have been protectionist, no, for the longest time.
Yes.
It's even enshrined in the constitution. So I think, no, yung mga bagay na yan really largely influenced by
policies.
natin, no, bad policies.
Okay, we will talk more about the research of Dr. Sir Percival Peña-Reyes of the Ateneo de Manila University on trade integration and socio-economic disparities among ASEAN states. An ASEAN in Focus Weekend Edition returns.
Watch your favorite Net 25 shows on OSN Channel 725, same day as the Philippines.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups, micro, small and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business every Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. Open for Business, from vision to action.
Hello everyone, Nicole Tongo here, greeting you from all the way here at Niagara Falls in Canada. Make sure to watch Digital Nest every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. only on Net 25. Again, I am Nicole Tongo, always one with 25.
Accurate and fair reporting. Not only from Batanes to Tawi-Tawi, but also abroad. Detailed and timely stories relevant to people all over the world. Catch all of these at Net 25, your reliable source of news, entertainment, and technology updates.
Okay, we're back with an interview with Dr. Sir Percival Peña-Reyes, Assistant Professor of the Department of Economics at Ateneo de Manila University. And we're still talking about the result of his research on the trade integration and socio-economic disparities among ASEAN states. And earlier, ito, nasabi mo na 50 years after the establishment of ASEAN. And of course, yung ASEAN Economic Community is relatively newer, mga 10 years, 10, 15 years pa lang yan. Pero instead of really bridging the economic divide among the 10 ASEAN member states, nakita, based on your research, na lalong lumaki pa yung gap ng member states.
I just used...
which is sad, actually.
Yeah. Oh, yung ginamit ko lang naman pong yung indicator was yung per capita income. And yung standard deviation lang. It's just basic statistics. Measure of dispersion. Now, I noticed nga, over time, lumalaki siya. So if we are really addressing disparity, then dapat siguro naman, less dispersed yung natin, yung standard of living ng mga bansang to.
Among others, tinignan mo yung export-import figures of these ASEAN member states. And if we have a look at the next slides, pinapakita dito yung export intensity index. What is the export intensity index?
Well, it's an index that well, actually, no, just to cite my source, no, this is taken from the Asia Regional Integration Center in ADB. So they have these trade integration indicators. Ito pong export intensity index. So meron po kasing it's an index. So there's a weight to it.
Okay.
And so yung exports ng, let's say, no, one country to a particular region. Okay, so let's say Philippines to ASEAN.
Okay.
It's going to be weighed dun sa exports naman ng world to ASEAN, let's say, no.
Okay.
So yung index na yan, basically it tells you, no, how by the word intensity, no, how strongly or intensely do you trade within the ASEAN region. No?
Okay, can we look at the next slide, please? Ito pinapakita
basically, an index greater than 1 would mean
anong
that
ibig sabihin yan? Vietnam ay malaki yung kanyang blue, yung kanyang export within ASEAN, siya yung pinakamataas.
Yes.
Okay.
And what I put here, no, kasi yung context po nito, no, I was comparing intra-ASEAN and ASEAN-Korea.
Okay.
Okay. That here, from this slide, no, yung export activities natin is still largely concentrated dun sa...
Outside.
Inside actually.
ASEAN,
No? We're
okay.
still largely, insular?
Okay.
And then
okay.
yung countries, no, that deal with Korea would be yung Brunei Darussalam. Mga ilan-ilan lang, no? Actually, if you have an index greater than 1,
Thailand. Oh, yes.
it means that mas intense yun, no?
Okay.
Because,
so, malaki pala yung ating exports within ASEAN. The Philippines kasi we rank number 2 after Vietnam. Pinapakita dito.
Ano po yan?
Yung blue kasi is the ASEAN export within
we
ASEAN.
trade more intensely within our region
So we're
than we
number
do
2.
with Korea.
Okay. Compared to Korea.
Compared to yung
Okay.
Korea na trade natin.
Okay.
Yun po yung context niyan. That's why yung ano ron. I wanted to show kasi, no, so if we are to talk about Korea and its new southern policy, how is it going to come into play, no? How is it going to help us?
So ang malaking exports with Korea are Brunei Darussalam and Thailand.
Thailand, yes.
Tayo maliit tayo.
Tayo maliit, no?
Pero maraming Koreanong pumupunta dito.
Yes. Across the board naman, we still largely, most of our countries, no, are still largely trading within, exporting within ASEAN.
Okay. If you look at the next slides, yung export share naman, can we look at the next slide? Yung isa pa, after that one. Okay. Anong pinapakita natin? Talagang ang export share ng Vietnam within ASEAN talagang malaki. May napakita, Vietnam is really very active. Yung intensity ng export niya within ASEAN talagang
It's largely
mataas.
dependent really on ASEAN.
Yung Vietnam.
ASEAN is it's a large market for a country like Vietnam.
Ano ba kasi mga produkto ng Vietnam? Bakit nakakapag-market siya dito sa ASEAN?
I would imagine ngayon
agricultural.
nagpipick up yung yung industrial ng Vietnam. And yun, the reason why it also trades with Korea. Korea is an industrial country. Manufacturing, actually, maraming na pupunta nga na susulutan nga ho tayo actually, no, ng
That's why makikita mo yung the previous
Philippines
figures natin, konti na lang yung difference ng Pilipinas sa Vietnam.
they are catching up because
They're catching up.
nasusulat nila tayo yung
Do you
mga
think they will really
investors
they will actually catch up within the next 3 years unless we
if we don't do anything, this should be a wake-up call. Actually, this should, prompt us to really do the right things. I don't think competition is bad per se,
Yes.
especially if it is used as motivation, much needed motivation to push us to do the right things.
So tama yung prediction na, of course, ASEAN is divided into 2. You have the ASEAN 6, the ASEAN
The
bigger
big
economies,
ones.
and the CLMV, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. Pero Vietnam is graduating already. Papasok na siya sa bigger economies ng ASEAN. At eventually, sabi mo nga, if we don't catch up, if we don't walk our talk, maiiwanan tayo pati ng Vietnam.
Yes, yung ako, to their credit, no, they're doing a great job, no, because yun, just to cite as an illustration, no, what they're doing with Korea,
Yes.
which we should be doing, no, since Koreans are naturally, organically coming here, no,
Yes, yes.
to learn English. But yun, yung kakaiba naman dun sa Vietnam, they are investing in learning the Korean language.
Oo nga, mandami.
To attract business,
Pero
tourism.
nanonood naman tayo ng Korean novela, pero in
Pero
Tagalog.
hindi ho ano yun.
So,
in Korean,
malaking talaga implication that we need to learn Korean
Yes,
also.
yes.
Para hindi lang yung estudyante na gusto mag-aral ng Ingles, kundi yung mga investors na
Yes,
mag-i-invest
in
dito.
order
Okay.
to also use it as leverage for doing business. In fact, yung sinabi po nung I listened to the president of the Korean Chamber of Commerce. He gave a talk there in Ateneo in front of our faculty. The reason why manufacturing has been transferring to Vietnam is aside from the low
From China, ha?
from
the rest
from
of the
China
world.
or
From Korea.
Yung Korea also, they prefer between Philippines and Vietnam, they prefer Vietnam because mababa yung of course yung labor cost mababa rin. But yung language barrier, and it's easier to have dealings because of regularity in policies.
Yeah.
So I think those things are
Very interesting language barrier kasi the Philippines prides itself as a destination daw of foreign investments because of our facility in English. Pero nakita natin, mas magaling nga tayo mag-English pero hindi pa rin dito sila nag-i-invest eh. Ito pala, they're able to attract Koreans because they speak Korean.
Yes. I think we should also have an open mind when it comes to that, no? Na yung language of business, which has primarily been English, no?
Dapat Chinese
hindi lang
na
naman,
ngayon,
may
Koreans,
Chinese na rin ngayon ho, no? Na, in fact, yun yung sinusulat ng mga ibang komentarista about yung is China about to go away? No. In fact, no, what is good about China rin, no, is that it has a rising middle class. In fact, no, mas marami
It has a
ng
bigger middle class na.
mas malaki ng
than the
middle class
US.
na kaysa dun sa US, which would give it a lot of purchasing power. And yung investments niya in science and technology. They're not really in the commanding heights of science and technology as far as innovations are. Hindi naman yun yung kailangan, no, but yung quick adapters.
Yes.
Yung sa applied engineering, technology, that's where they're doing well, and they've generated a lot of PhD graduates. And yung Huawei, no, that's an example of a firm that has benefited from that. No? Although ngayon, naghihigpit na si Trump, but Professor Noel de Dios of the UP School of Economics, no, has an interesting metaphor for it, no, that itong pag-catch up ng China as far as science and technology goes, no, it has gained critical mass. It has a life of its own. It's self-sustaining na mahirap nang pigilan niya. Yun yung niya.
Okay, we look at the next slide, yung intra-regional trade intensity index. What do you mean by the intra-regional trade intensity index? Yung next two slides natin.
Yes, no, the intra-regional, well, as defined by, they're not really my definitions, no, but I just borrowed from the definition of ARIC. Intra-regional trade intensity deals with total trade. No? If you add up exports and imports. So this is total trade intensity, total trade activity. No? So in an index greater than 1 would mean that it has relatively great intensity or importance.
Sa intra-regional. Okay.
Intra-regional.
So number 1 pa rin ang Vietnam.
Vietnam is
followed
still
by Cambodia.
Largely, no, with ASEAN. ASEAN is still a large market for Vietnam.
Okay. And then Cambodia also.
Yes.
Brunei Darussalam, ano bang produkto ng Brunei Darussalam? Nandun siya sa number 3.
Ayun lang, hindi ko lang nahimay yung mga products ng Brunei. But I would guess, no, they have oil.
Okay.
May mga sila, no?
And then coming in fourth is Lao People's Democratic Republic.
Lao PDR, surprisingly.
Surprisingly, ano kaya yung produkto nila? So, ibig sabihin, pinapakita dito na itong mga bansang ito ay very active yung kanilang involvement sa trading dito sa ASEAN.
They are actually largely dependent on ASEAN as a market.
Okay, tayo ay pang-8. Which means we don't really depend much on ASEAN. ASEAN is not...
We don't really trade that much.
With ASEAN,
maliit lang ho yung ating
and of course,
trading
Thailand,
sector.
Curiously, ito, sa Thailand naman kasi it's a major global exporter of different agricultural products. Okay, and then we go to the next slide, yung intra-regional trade intensity. What's the difference between, Ito yung so this is Inter-Regional Trade Intensity Index, pareho pa din
Yung
siya,
ito
no?
po, this is to compare no ASEAN and ASEAN as a block, no.
Okay.
And ASEAN with Korea. So ASEAN to ASEAN still largely trades with itself than it does with Korea. And then yung next na ano po is I tried to break it down per country, which is more dependent on ASEAN than it is with Korea.
Okay. Yung susunod na slide, pinapakitang slide, dito makikita yung ating intra-regional trade
Balance.
Balance. So which means
Which are net importers versus
pwede bang
net
mas palaki isang yung screen, yung buong slide na yan? Kasi diyan mo makikita, ayan, tayo ay negative, nasa dulo tayo.
Oh, well, we're a net importing country. And of course, right now, we're embarking on build. So,
Okay.
we have to import capital goods, no? Yung mga crane na ginagamit sa construction ng mga flyover.
So we
So,
are a
capital
net,
equipment, largely yan yung
capital
pinupuntahan.
equipment, yung para sa
Oo,
build
to
na to.
For
So,
the build, supposedly, ganun daw.
So hindi ito pangit na figure. Pinapakita lang dito na kaya tayo nagne-negative kasi we're importing
That's the
capital
thing with
goods.
data, Dr. Bunda. Yung data doesn't really say anything.
Okay.
It's we human beings who put interpretation to it. But the way I would see it, it depends really. If we are importing it really to grow our productive capacity, as we have been saying,
Yes.
then that would be a good thing.
Pero our total trade is, this is 2018, is total trade is 41,180. This is in millions, not US. Pero
Yes.
ang laki ng diferensya with Singapore, it's 187,201 millions.
Yes,
So ang
in the
laki
millions
talaga
po
ng
yan.
diferensya
Oo.
natin sa Singapore, and Thailand, malaki rin. Malaysia, 143,555. And we are just 41,180.
If I may note
millions.
lang also, no, Dr. Bundan, yung sa ating imports, it's not just a matter of us importing more. While that is happening, our export sector is also shrinking. That's why that
Okay.
deficit is worsening. So that's
So-
the worrisome part actually.
So worrisome. Dumadami yung ating inaangkat papasok, pero yung ating inilalabas ay kumakonti.
Yes. That's the worrisome part, no. And in fact, no, yung traditional sources natin ng ano,
Exports.
foreign revenues
Okay.
actually, no. Yung revenues from BPO's call centers tsaka yung remittances, no. Nagso-slow down na ho yan eh.
Yeah.
So which of course would
Ano yung
have
pampalit?
implications on our consumption domestically.
Ano yung pampalit kaya natin?
We need to have really, no, going back to what I said about traditional sources, we need to go back to our traditional sources, no, yung exports,
Okay.
tourism,
Okay.
and FDI.
Foreign direct investments.
We have to, and that's where, of course, yung study ko was about Korea also, yung Southern policy. Korea has a lot of resources, no, that we can attract, no, na they want to do business with us, but
Okay.
we have to, of course, make the environment more accommodating for them.
Okay, medyo nakakalungkot yung usapan natin, bumabagsak yung ating exports.
Yes,
lumalaki
that's why yung
ating
deficit
imports.
na yun, it's not just
Okay.
imports.
Okay,
It's
okay.
exports also that's
Sige.
getting worse.
Okay, we will talk more about the different findings and the research conducted by Dr. Peña Reyes here when Asian in Focus Weekend Edition returns.
When visiting the Philippines, Manila or Quezon City is a popular destination. But oftentimes the hustle and bustle of the city can be more stressful on your vacation. So when you feel the need to reconnect to nature or relax again, there's a beautiful oasis just outside of the city called the Garden at Ciudad de Victoria. species that you can see here include hydrangea, snapdragon, and stargazers. They're truly beautiful. The gardens at Ciudad de Victoria are so peaceful, tranquil, and beautiful that it's become a haven for young couples and a very popular venue for engagement photos. The next time you want an escape from the big city, the garden at Ciudad de Victoria is a wonderful place to visit.
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus, Weekend Edition, and we're still interviewing here Dr. Sir Percival Peña-Reyes, Assistant Professor, Department of Economics of Ateneo de Manila University, and we're still talking about the results of his research on trade integration and socio-economic disparities among ASEAN states. Before we ended kanina, we came up with a very malungkot na picture kasi yun nga, while our imports ay lumalaki, yung exports natin ay lumiliit.
Yeah, the revenues that are supposed to cover for our spending on foreign goods, no, mababaho. So yun yung yun yung reason why yung deficit na yan is widening. It's widening.
So ano dapat? Kasi you mentioned earlier, medyo pawala na yung, of course, yung traditional natin, yung remittances.
Yung remittances
medyo constant pa siya.
And BPO revenues, no? What are threatening yung remittances and yung revenues na yan? Well, we have a trade war.
Okay.
Yung US-China trade war is...
we will talk about that later.
Yeah. And artificial intelligence for yung yung sa BPOs and call centers. I think that's also going to be disruptive in that industry.
So saan tayo dapat bumawi?
Well, yung sa yung na-mention ko nga no, we cannot really rely on remittances and yung revenues as of the moment na na nagde-decline, nagde-decelerate.
Okay.
No. Not that they're not growing, no. Nagde-decelerate means nagsa-slow down lang naman. No? But we have to go back to yung traditional po, which I mentioned, no, tourism. We have to
agriculture.
Also exports, no? Agriculture could be part of it. And FDI. We have to attract more FDI.
Foreign investments.
Yeah. So those are yung sources yung the more traditional sources of foreign revenue. In relation po, Doc, no, yung dun sa agriculture, because well, we have a new agriculture secretary in Secretary William
who is a regular here, incidentally.
Yes, so I got to read. No, he has a 3-part column which appeared in, I think, in Manila Times.
Manila Times, yes.
And I find a lot of promise no dun sa vision niya, which I hope no he could carry out, because yung ating growth kasi no, although we are growing at a high pace, 6% no yung ating although right now, no?
Medyo bumaba tayo.
Medyo bumaba, but it's going to be temporary. Once we get our act together, I think we can get back on track. But yung target na 7 to 8%, as my colleague, no, whom I would like to acknowledge, no, Dr. Alvin Ang, is the director of our Ateneo Center for Economic Research and Development. He makes a nice analogy about this engine. No?
Okay.
We are working with the 1300 engine, which is primarily run by services. The services sector. That can give you 6% GDP growth. But if you're targeting 7 to 8%, you have to have a bigger engine, a 2500 engine.
And that includes,
that will have to, of course, no, include the other parts of the engine which aren't really functioning right now. Industry and services have to be jump-started. Because yung if you have a 1300 engine, you make it run faster than what it's supposed to. you're going to overheat yung ano nyo. And
Yes,
we're
yes.
already seeing signs no, of an overheating economy kung titignan mo yung traffic pa lang eh.
We're losing how many billions a day? 3-something billion pesos
Productivity
a day.
losses with
oh.
traffic. No? People have estimated a lot is being lost there.
Oo nga.
Yung water shortage, electricity shortage, power shortage. So
High
we are
cost of
running
electricity,
the
actually.
wall.
Yes,
So we have to have more investments to increase our productive capacity. And we have to have, of course, no, yung agriculture is going to be a major part
Yeah.
of that engine that we need to rev up.
Actually, President Duterte is in China right now, but before he left yesterday, he said that he will now attend more to the needs of the agricultural sector. How do you find that statement coming from the President?
Well, that gives me much relief.
Okay.
Because really, yung statistics on agriculture, no, it's funny, no, when people say that we're still an agricultural economy, no, but the data do not really show it.
Yes, kasi we're a net,
9% na lang
we're a
yung
net
ano,
food
eh.
importer eh.
Oh,
How can you say
sa-
that you're an agricultural economy when you import food
Import
to feed
food,
your... And hindi lang basta food, yung basic, rice,
Rice.
fish, pati galunggong, ini-import na ngayon eh.
And yung ano po, yung sinasabi rin po, no, yung sa, although no, there are varying opinions when it comes to rice tariffication,
Yes.
yung mga iba na sinasabi kinakawawa ang farmer, no, why don't we also mention that farmers are themselves no, net consumers of
Yes.
rice.
They can't even produce yung
Oho.
yearly ano nila.
Sila
yung
net-
year-round requirement
They
nila
ought to
for
be net
rice.
producers, no? So we have to disabuse ourselves of this notion that trade is going to kill us. No? Na yun nga, kung babalansehin natin lahat, any policy change is going to introduce no changes that could harm some and benefit some. But at net, no, economists would always go for changes that benefit the most.
So you're advocating for really the development of the agricultural sector.
Yes, because I think maraming taong makikinabang dyan.
Yes.
9% lang ang kinocontribute niya. And then 1 out of 3 lang ang
Labor.
nasa labor.
Oh.
1 out of 3 nasa labor and yet 9% lang. No?
Tapos yung population, actually, it's more than 50% ng ating population still live in the
Yes,
rural areas.
I haven't really checked yung latest on that, no, but I would suppose no a huge proportion is still there, living there, and yung maganda ho sanang gawin natin, ano, buhayin tong agriculture, because that's going to spark a lot of
Yes.
economic activity, no, na
Okay,
which we badly need.
you mentioned in your research the role of Mindanao. So where is Mindanao here in this picture?
Well, yung Mindanao kasi po, no, if we also look at yung disparities natin, sectorally and geographically, I think I've spoken about yung sectoral disparities, no. Agriculture lagging behind. We need to rev it up in
Yes,
order
yes.
to have a bigger engine.
And Mindanao is the
Mindanao
food
also
basket.
sectorally, geographically rather, no? Napag-iiwanan din sila. They have ano, no, 60% of income, no, easily Luzon regions, no, NCR, Calabarzon, Central Luzon, 60%, and the other 14 regions have to compete for the remaining 40% of the economic pie. Mindanao, I'm sure, no, konti lang yung ano. Although recent statistics would show some improvements, no, but really Mindanao is a resource-rich
region.
region. It's a natural gateway to big
ASEAN.
economies.
Actually, yun ang gateway natin talaga
Deep
sa
yan.
ASEAN. Diba? You can just take a boat ride from Tawi-Tawi to Malaysia to
Yes,
to
no?
Indonesia.
Yung ano ko, I have relatives in Zamboanga. And yung barter trade, no? So from Sabah, no,
Yes, yes.
may supply of goods, no, from there. So it's a natural gateway. So what are we doing with it, no? So yung agriculture, it's a natural food basket. Agriculture, we can export. And if I might mention, there is also a huge market in halal.
Yes.
Yung halal na food.
Yes. Hindi natin talaga natututukan yan.
Oh, no. So ang dami nating pwedeng ano, no. It's
Actually, this was mentioned by Secretary Dar in one of his
talks
talks
about
na kailangan talaga i-develop natin yung halal sector.
No, kasi ano ho yan malaking pera hong umiikot dyan sa market na yun because yung demand po niya, no? It has very specific requirements na yun kailangan talaga, no, na merong mag-meet nun. That's why they are willing to pay a high price, no, for that kind of service.
Okay, shifting to another topic. Anong epekto ng trade war between US and China sa ASEAN economy?
Oh well, I would like to cite a study done by Nomura, no. Maganda actually because of this trade war, no. Well, maganda for ASEAN, no, as far as ASEAN is concerned.
As a whole, ha?
As a whole.
Pero if you look at the individual
but the big
countries,
picture siguro, no, it's something no. But if I might qualify lang yung sagot ko, no, it's, as far as ASEAN is concerned, it might benefit us because US firms that are located in China might want to get out.
Actually, many are already getting out of China.
All right. So, where would they go?
Where are they going?
Okay.
Sige.
So, there were different countries mentioned in that report by Nomura, no? And yung out of the 8, okay, 5 doon ang ASEAN.
Okay, kasama ba ang Pilipinas?
Philippines yung pero 0.1% lang ng GDP natin yung That's why yung export natin really has and it deals with electronics manufacturing.
Electronics pa rin talaga.
Yung ating participation in the global value chain of electronics, baba lang yung natin dun So we have to, up our game there. So Philippines, just to mention it, Philippines
0.1% lang.
0.1% lang. Philippines, Thailand, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Singapore. Those were the 5 ASEAN countries. And then Korea also.
Oh, yeah. Pero of course, Vietnam sigurado is one of the biggest beneficiaries kasi tatawid ka lang ng border.
Hong Kong and Taiwan also. No? So if you notice, mga magkakapit bahay ito malapit lang din sa China.
So what can we do to attract more? Ayun, mga sinabi mo kanina, policies.
Yung policies natin really, we have to well, in infrastructure, we're already doing it. No? But yung lang, no, yung policy certainty. Ang ayaw din talaga ng negosyante, yung palit-palit ka ng
which characterizes our Philippine policy environment. Very uncertain, nagbabago, diba? Hindi stable. So, natatakot yung mga investors to really invest here.
Yes. No? Yung ease of doing business, I think, also needs to, be addressed.
So, we painted a rather not rosy picture of yung achievements ng ASEAN Economic Community. So, ano sa tingin mo, how do we realize the objectives of the ASEAN Economic Community then? Or optimistic ka
It's
ba na?
good na I don't think na we should be painting a rosy picture. We need
Because
to paint something sobering.
Okay.
It should sober us up to, huwag tayong malasing dito sa notion na ASEAN dapat it's going to lift. We're not walking our talk. We're not even doing the things that we're supposed to be doing internally. No? So
actually, this is a wake-up call. When I saw
yes.
your presentation, wow. Kasi I'm really engaged in ASEAN. So one of the biggest pillars, of course, is the ASEAN Economic Community. Sabi nila, this is one of the most active and productive pillars of ASEAN. Pero when I looked at your research, parang, teka muna, bakit parang mali ata? So are you pessimistic? Are you optimistic?
Ako, I always want to look at the bright side.
Okay.
Who knows how much potential we could unlock if we just get our act together. Yun yung Yun yung gusto naman nating And yung lalo na ngayon din may trade war. And we have $1 trillion economy right at our doorstep. Nasa kapitbahay lang natin mga bansang to. We could take advantage of it, no, na if ever South Korea wants to get into the picture, diba? It could serve as a catalyst, no? So that we can trade more with each other. Yun yung sinasabi ko, no? Instead of us competing for Korea, Korea can channel investments, no, in all countries. And then yung value chain, natin, no, yung Korea is a manufacturing powerhouse.
Yes.
It's an industrial powerhouse. So we have to attract yung FDI from it. But we have to make sure na we could attract them. make things enticing.
Do you think there is a conscious effort within ASEAN to really develop yung ASEAN economy as a whole? Or kanya-kanya pa rin talaga?
Yan yung observation din po ng ilan. Na it's still largely kanya-kanya instead of tayo. We have that mentality na
within ASEAN na, so malayo pa rin.
we have a long way to go.
Okay.
But
can we go there?
I think so. Yes. Yes. No, if we have that conscious effort, no, to first of all, no, as a country in Philippines, no, to improve itself, and to deliberately look at ASEAN, no, as a market, no, that we can take advantage of. Ito dapat, no, hindi natin i-take for granted na meron tayong market right at our doorstep. It's $1 trillion economy that can compete, no, with the large ones, no. I presented that also in my talk there in the UP. Na we could stand toe to toe, no, with other countries, the G7 economies, no, as a bloc.
As a bloc.
As a bloc, no. So it's right at
Kaya
the
lang,
doorstep.
pero as a bloc, parang tingnan mo na Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand lang ata ito. And Brunei,
Yun nga
Darussalam.
ho. When you say that, no, so yun lang din yung question, yung challenge ko for the South Korean people na, when you say you want to partner with ASEAN, are you just speaking of
Singapore
a few
and
ASEAN countries?
Thailand and
or are you also going to be willing to trade? No? Kaya maganda rin ho na nahimay natin sino ba talaga ang into Korean trading. No? Because they could potentially help us also.
Ano sabi ng Koreans? Are they willing?
They've already expressed, no, through the new Southern policy. Diba? And yung atin lang kasi, Philippines and Korea, we don't have an FTA with Korea to begin with. So dealings are still largely done through ASEAN. And yun, we still have to largely compete with our peers for investments, no, with Korea. But yun nga, sana hindi maging ganun.
Okay.
Kasi kung magiging ganun lang, may mapag-iiwanan talaga.
Pero in the end, we really still to continue with our ASEAN economic unity.
We should.
Meron siyang advantage.
We're
And of
not
course,
just,
meron siyang disadvantages.
We're not
Okay.
really walking earth. Kumbaga ho, no, we want to do something nice, but we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. The vision is good. The vision is clear.
Countrywide and region-wide, yun ang problema.
No. Yung where we want to go naman po, no, because I posed 3 questions. Where are we now? Where do we want to go? How do we get there? The where to go to part is crystal clear.
Okay. Okay, so actually maganda yung naging resulta ng research mo na kasi we're trying to paint a rosy picture of the ASEAN economic community, pero nung nag-crunch ko ng figures, instead of bridging the disparity, mas lumalaki pa through the years. But we don't have to give up on the vision of the ASEAN economic community.
I don't think we should.
Okay.
Dapat nga maging this is a sobering analysis. I hope, no, that we ought to be pushed to do the right things.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very
for
much.
having me.
Okay, maraming salamat, Dr. Reyes, and we hope to hear more of you in the coming days ahead. Okay, in the meantime, I'm Kaloy Tabunda. Thank you very much for watching ASEAN in Focus Weekend Edition. I'm Kalin Tabunda, and I'm one with 25.
Japan Fact File, River Cruise. In Japan, people enjoy the country's many rivers. Some people go rafting, others take boat cruises. One popular activity in Tokyo is to cruise the city's waterways in an old-fashioned houseboat. You can enjoy night views of the metropolis. Check out the NHK World website for more information on Japan.
Mga kamag-anak, kaibigan at kababayan po namin sa Middle East and North Africa, masayang balita ang hatid po namin sa inyo. Ang Net25 ay makakasama nyo na sa inyong mga tahanan. Mapapanood nyo na ang inyong mga paboritong programa sa pamamagitan ng OSN, ang pinakamalaking entertainment network sa buong rehiyon. Sa Channel 725, maihahatid na namin sa inyo ang mga pangunahing balita at mahahalagang impormasyon. Kaya makisaya, makisalo tuwing umaga at panoorin ang mga programa ng mga hinahangaang celebrities and OPM artists, same day as the Philippines. You can also watch Net25 live and on demand anytime, anywhere on any mobile device on OSN Play. Kaya tawag na sa OSN to learn more on how to get Net25. Sa Net25 on OSN, siguradong at home ka dito.